Hi guys, okay, we're back for another installment of our used to be monthly newsletters, now I guess it's weekly newsletters. So what I want to do on this one is kind of an update to ones that we did before, but a little bit different. Dad did some videos, actually Dad and I both did some videos. It's been a couple years now. I think they were number 35, 36, and 37 on Western letters, carving Western letters. We're doing this in response to Chuck Smith back in Pittsburgh asked, would like to see some more routing on Western letters, inset and outset. So that's what I'm going to do. What's different now is that when we did the video a few years ago, we didn't have our actual Western font layout letters. That was before we actually come up with a Western font, which is this, which actually we call it Western, but specifically it's pointedly mad, but we just call them Western letters. The way we did the ones on 35, 36, and 37 is we actually took our regular Clarendon letters and we modified them. Dad showed you exactly how to do that. We modified them by putting little points and little dips and stuff. But anyway, go back and watch those. It'll be a great resource for you if you don't want to start off with the actual Western letters. Now that we have the Western letters, I wanted to do an update video based on our layout Western letters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carve this one outset, and then I'm going to carve this one inset, and show you kind of how I do it and what's different on these than would be on our regular Clarendon letters, or maybe whatever letters you guys are using. So anyway, yeah, that is really the purpose behind this video. So I'm going to go ahead and fire up. I've got my DeWalt routers. Now this is my little DWP 611, the little compact routers, which I know a lot of you guys have got with our custom router base on there, router base plate. And then I'm going to do the background with the bigger DeWalt. What the heck is the number on this one? I can't remember now. Oh yeah, DWP 618, the bigger DeWalt. I like to use, you guys know that, I like to use that for heavier cuts, and the cleanup or the background is a little bit heavier cut. So I'm just going to fire this up here, Dad, and if you could just kind of bear with me and kind of stay with me. Am I set up where you need me to be, Dad?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, already got this set as far as the depth. Nah, it's a little bit deep actually. You guys know I don't go really by depth, I go by the width of the cut. I think that should be about right. So the bit I'm using here is our profile bit. You guys can see all about the bits rather than zoom in on them. Just watch our videos 35, 36, and 37. Dad goes over all of the router bits. I'll be using the profile bit for doing the outset letters, and then I'll move on. I'll describe the other bits once we get to them. So here we go. Yep, that's still a little too deep. So not too much difference on these guys. Again, these are a little bit different than the Clarendon letters, but they're a little bit trickier, and then there's a lot of points. And these are actually, I didn't say that before, but these are actually 2-inch tall letters. The cool thing about these is because there's so many turns, there's not a whole lot of real straight lines, that even if you're not right on the line, it really doesn't make too much difference, as long as it still looks symmetrical. Gone over this kind of thing before, guys and gals, but the way I'm controlling the router is I'm more just kind of guiding it where I want it to go rather than trying to muscle it, and that's honestly the reason I like these little handles. I know some of you have taken this base and put big handles, and hey, whatever you like, whatever works for you. For me, Dad taught me years ago, like decades ago, that what you're trying to do really is just kind of guide the router where you want it to go. You can still have 100% control of that router and just guide it rather than trying to muscle it. If you've got the right bit and you're using the right material, that's about 80% of your battle. This is that really soft cedar fencing material that I use, and my bit is really sharp. I keep all my router bits as sharp as I possibly can. Now here's kind of a little tricky area. And this is even going to be trickier when you go down to a smaller letter. This is a 2-inch letter. But when you're down to 1 inch or 1.5 inches, that space in between there is going to be really tight. It's kind of tight even on the 2-inch. So here's what I do. I'll do those as 2 separate pieces. Top and bottom. Then I'll go through and I'll kind of lift the router up, not going full depth, but still making sure that it's deep enough that when I sand it down, I won't be sanding out that sharp point on the inside. You catch that, Dad?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shows up good.
So that's where on the other Western letters that Dad did that I mentioned before on 35, 36, and 37, you didn't have really any points kind of like that were really tight in there. With these letters, just the way they are designed, you do have a few tight spots. Anyway, to go back to what I was saying, and I'm hoping you guys can hear me all right. Can you hear me okay, Dad?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, good.
If I can hear you,
Yeah,
anybody can hear you.
if you can hear me, the neighbors can hear me. Anyway, sorry about that, Dad. A little shot on your hard of hearing.
Yeah, that's all right. I'll pretend I didn't hear it.
There you go. Good idea. So anyway, as you can see, guys, I have complete control of the router, but I'm not really trying to muscle it. I'm just kind of guiding it where I want to go. And again, like I've mentioned on many previous videos, that I never lose contact with the board. As a matter of fact, I like my finger right on the edge of the base and the board. Just helps me guide it that much better. That's not bad. That's not too bad. Those lines aren't absolutely perfect, but I don't have my magnifiers on. I don't know why I just decided to do this with just my reading glasses and not my magnifiers. Magnifiers, not magnifiers. Oh boy. Okay, so here I'm going to go ahead and do the cleanup. Now I'm going to draw the cloud for your guys' benefit. Normally when I do this, I've done it enough that I don't really need this line. I don't really go by it, but for you guys' benefit, especially you brand new people, when I do this cloud, I used to, for the first 10 years, I would follow that line so I knew exactly
that's
what
what you were taught.
That's what I was taught.
I still do.
All right, so I think my depth, this now is the 90-degree V-groove, which is what's used for the background, what I'm going to do right here. So again, go back to those other videos, 35, 36, and 37, where Dad talks about it, and you'll see close-ups of that bit. Turn that around. It's going right in my face. That's better. Now, what you can do on this, guys, if it turns out, hang on a second. The cord is messing with me. Wipe off my glasses.
No, it's louder, it's a little louder now.
Yeah, so I gotta talk up.
Yeah.
Speak up, right? Yeah.
Speak up.
So what you can do, like you've seen me do before, is if you don't want to get quite that close to these letters with your cleanup bit, you can always go back and make a second pass with your profile bit, deeper and wider around all of these letters, that will give you a little bit of a buffer zone. But you can see that on lots of the different videos, the Live to Ride videos for sure. If I get in a tight spot where I think that going full depth may cause me to nick that letter, you see I kind of pick it up and just barely go through there. And if I should nick a letter, hopefully I won't on camera, then I can always go back and kind of fix the letter with the profile bit. Which is quite a bit louder, huh, Dad?
Yeah, it is. That's one thing I like about that little DWP. It's pretty quiet.
Yeah. But it just doesn't quite have the power for taking out a lot of wood the way this one does. That's why I like the bigger one for heavier jobs, for taking out more material. Okay. That'll give you a pretty good idea of how to go about that, guys.
Hold right there, let me zoom in on those.
Okay. Got a few little high spots there.
Okay, I'm done.
So then I would take and brush it, and you guys know this process. Brush it off, get all that loose sawdust out of there, and then spray it up.
Now hold it up towards the camera, so turn around and hold it up towards the camera. Up a little further. Not up. I mean towards the camera a little closer.
That way? This? Like that?
Oh. Just have fun, son. That's good.
Well, that's one thing we always do, is we always seem to have fun. Okay, so now I'm gonna change my setup and come back, and then I'm gonna carve these inset. So we'll be right back. Okay, so we did the outset letters. You guys saw how that worked. Now I'm gonna do these inset. Now I'm gonna do these two different ways with two different bits. First, I'm gonna do I'll do the A and the B with the profile bit, and that is the same bit that I used on doing the outset letters on this one. The reason I'm going to do that is because, again, there's some pretty tight areas in here, and there's a couple different ways. Now, Dad, the funny thing is, when I was growing up, Dad carved all inset letters with a profile bit. I'm the one that kind of started doing it later on with that 60 degree, but Dad always did his inset letters with a profile bit. So you play around, find out what you like. I like it better, more of a V groove, but when I have a really tight area on some places, like these are 2-inch letters, but if you were carving 1 inch or 1.5 inches, there'd be some really tight areas. You may need to use the profile bit to get in some really tight areas. But anyway, I'm going to do it both different ways. I'm going to do a few letters with the profile bit, and then I'm going to do the last 2 letters with I'll change the bit and do that with a 60 degree bit. But anyway, enough yakking. Let's get to making some sawdust here. Whatever's left inside there, leave that for now, and I'll come back and get it in a minute here. I really like these Western letters, guys. And again, this is Pointedly Mad font is the one that we use for our Western letters. Very popular with the ranch signs, the horse people, the Western stuff. When I was up in Oatman, I used to do a lot of them up there. Most of the time when I get orders for ranch signs or stall signs, that's where these Western letters really come into play. At some point now you're going to change your outer bit, right? Yes. I'm glad you said something before I moved on. Yeah, you already went through it in your plans. I would have ripped right into that D. Thanks, Dad. Your memory's not as bad as I make out. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to the 60 degree bit. I just get to yakking here. So I'm going to actually show you something here too, guys. When I used to change my bits on this router, I would leave the base on, and then I would use my wrench, and I would have to move the router base kind of all the way up so I could get to the button. But I just found after a period of time, it's so much easier to do by just taking the base off. And then my button is over here, of course. That's the shaft lock. And just loosen that up and then change the bit, and then I just pop that base base right back on there. And I don't put it all the way in. I leave it out a little bit because I want to make sure I've got plenty of vision when I'm doing that. So then when I put that on, I'm very careful. Let me say that again. I'm very careful not to hit this on that, because this or that doesn't react well to getting hit with that. Doesn't work too well. Carbide is very easy to chip if you hit it with something. So what I do, again, let me do that again. I put that on. This has got some pins on the inside here. You guys know that. And it's got a groove there. So I just put that on there, get that, and pop it on, and then it's on. So then I can set my depth. So let me get my bit out of the way here. Anyway, that's the way I found the easiest way to swap bits out on that. I don't swap bits a lot because I have a multiple router setup, but when I wanted to show you guys that in case you guys kind of struggle with changing the bits on that, and it takes you a long time. Because at the very beginning, before I kind of learned this router, that's the way I was doing it, and it was really cumbersome doing it with a wrench inside of that hole and all that. So anyway, I'm going to go on first, and I'm going to take this stuff out of these 3 letters with this 60 degree. I'm going to do that first. Then I'll go and I'll do the rest, those other 2 letters. Not quite deep enough. Got me on camera there, Dad, or do I need to move?
No, I got you fine.
Okay, so here's what I do on this, taking this stuff out, guys. I really like as much of texture down there as possible, so you saw me kind of bouncing it, because if I just left it in there full depth and then drug it down, I really wouldn't have that much texture. Even this little spot right there with my pencil. Even that little spot right there, I can texture even though I can't go full depth in it. I can just kind of bounce that through there and it leaves a little texture. Now on this one, because it's so wide, it's not that big a deal. I can leave it full strength and move it around. But when I come to here, that's when I'll just kind of bounce that thing, not come down full depth. And again here. It gets kind of tricky. You gotta be careful you don't nick the side. Okay, so now I'm gonna back it up. Not go quite as deep, and I'll do the detail on these letters here. Oh, that's still too deep. Now, I can do this a couple different ways, but what I'm going to do is as I get to that point, if I just went in and out, it wouldn't give me a real sharp point. So I'm just going to drag it up and drag it down. And I kind of showed you that stuff before. Dad taught me that stuff a long time ago. So, as I come out, I'm just going to lift the router up. And then go back in. Let's start at the top here. You can see I'm kind of lifting one side of the router base in order to get that real sharp point in there. That's one way to do it. On the next letter, I'll show you the other way to do it. That might be a little bit easier for you, especially if you're just starting out. Okay? Reshape that a little bit. Okay, so now, on this point, I'm not going to pull the router base up because I'm going to go shallower. I'm going to go shallower yet. That should be about right. So in that particular instance, because I'm going very shallow, I can get that pretty sharp point in there. The only issue with this is to make sure when you're sanding it off that you don't lose some of your detail because you didn't go deep enough. But this should be deep. Should be deep enough to keep all of your detail. But then I'm going to go back around at a deeper setting. So now I'm going to go deeper. And I'm going to go right around. Now I'm going to go deeper yet. That's that little, I call it kind of a dimple effect or dipple effect. Now this one's a little bit wide enough. There's a little bit more there. So I can leave a full depth and just take it out. So honestly, whatever way you like to do it, it's fine.
That little pointed area, you could call that like a little tit, right?
Yeah, I guess you could call that. You could refer it to that.
You know I
if
love
you'd
to say
like
that
to.
word.
I should have known that was coming. You guys should have known that was coming. Anyway, moving on. Whichever way you like, honestly, to the naked eye. Oh, there's another good word for it.
Yeah, right.
Naked. It goes with that other one. Anyway, to the naked eye, people are probably not going to know the difference between the way that is and that is. So you find the way you like to do it. Yeah, I'm kind of up in the air. It doesn't really matter to me. I can do it either way. Generally, when I'm doing inset letters, I stick to the 60 degree and I make it work however I need to make it work in order to do what I'm working on at the time. So whatever works for you guys, just play around with it and get control of that router bit and learn what you like your router bits to do. Again, you may be using different router bits than our router bits, so then this stuff really won't apply. But it will apply if you have something that's close to what we're using. I like our router bits, and this is all based on you guys out there that really have our router bits. Then you know exactly what I'm using. If you have different router bits, just play with them. If you don't have our router bits, that's fine. Just play with your router bits and learn what they'll do. Practice before you start doing it on a customer's sign. It'll be worth your time, trust me, when you wipe out a sign that you didn't, because you did it wrong. So practice as much as you can. But anyway, I think that was about all we wanted to cover on this one, Dad.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, if you have any, oh yeah, again, this was based on a question that we got from Chuck. Chuck Smith in Pittsburgh. So, if you have questions, write us questions, send us emails, whatever. Strap a question to a homing pigeon and send it our direction, whatever. So give us some feedback, let us know what you want to see, and we'll put it on the list and make some new videos, and we will see you next week.